I'm going to share with you some of my background. Not in any way to toot my own horn, but solely for the understanding that the context of who I am is going to help you better understand the content of what I'm sharing. And the context of anything shapes the content that is arising within it. So I want you to understand my background and where some of this information and conviction and hopefully wisdom is coming from. So my spiritual practice began really in high school. I started doing astral projection practice in high school and learning how to feel energy, sense energy, and meditate myself through the falling asleep process. I had my first big spiritual awakening at 17, after I got in a car accident. I had a near-death experience. And I didn't remember until about 2 weeks later. And I had a dream where I remembered floating up and out of my body, out of the car, and up towards the sky. And there was an overwhelming remembrance in that dream. It's probably the most profound dream I've ever had in my life. And in that dream, in the remembrance, I remembered saying, oh yeah, that's right. I remember coming into lives. I remember leaving lives. I remember doing all this before. I remember this process. I remember that I chose to come back. And that awakening was so powerful. It really set the stage for almost everything else that occurred from that point. It was the door in my mind and soul and awareness that once opened just could never be shut again. I went on to college. I got a degree in music and a degree in business, and started meditating in college, and shortly thereafter started studying Zen Buddhism. So I started sitting Zen and also running music stores. I used to run Guitar Center stores, and the biggest store I ran, I think, was around $15 to $18 million a year. So in doing that, I was managing teams of up to 20 people, and I basically spent 3 to 4 years just teaching people how to sell. I have a long background doing sales, and it was 3 years in honing and crafting not just my own sales process, but teaching other people how to be successful salespeople as well, and how to make great rapport and use sales as a way to create connection and create long-term relationships. After that, I had to decide what I was going to do when I grew up. I was continuing to study Zen Buddhism, sit regularly, meditate regularly, but I knew I couldn't do retail forever, so I decided to go back to school. But I decided to do chiropractic because I explicitly, at that time, realized what I was looking for was a practical way to explore metaphysics. I wanted to understand how the universe worked, and I realized that one of the most fruitful ways to understand that was to find when the universe wasn't working inside of another person. So when they were ill, when they were sick, when they were pointed in the wrong direction, when they were disordered. That internal disorder was a reflection of them being oriented to the universe in the wrong way. But I didn't have any of the prerequisites to go to chiropractic school. Doing music and business didn't give me any of the pre-med. So I did 2 years of undergraduate schooling again before I went to chiropractic school. And I did a doctorate in chiropractic and a master's in acupuncture at the same time. When I got to chiropractic school, I realized that there was over 100 different techniques that you could study as a chiropractor. And I didn't know what any of those techniques were or what they did. So I just went to start visit offices. And I found a technique called network, or network spinal analysis. And in network, you use very light contacts on different regions of the spine to help the nervous system balance the autonomics, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, so you can drop out of long-term patterns of fight and flight, and new parts of you can come online. So I started to receive that work and started to see patients not just have healing experiences, but have radical awakening and transformational experiences through that work. Because similar in some senses to Kundalini Yoga, at some point in this type of chiropractic, there's also actually a ripple of energy that moves through the entire spine. And as it does that, it awakens the spine and awakens the energy bodies and starts to give people experiences of themselves that are far beyond the day-to-day. So when I got out of chiropractic school, after doing a couple of very challenging years in practice in New York, I moved to Southern California, opened a practice, and had a very thriving practice in which the local community referred to me as the wizard rather than a chiropractor, because everyone knew that my office is where all the weird shit happened. All the awakening, all the remembering of repressed trauma, all of the spontaneous opening of the heart, all of the deep embodiment, all of the crazy stuff that can happen in healing was what was going on in my office. What I started to notice was I was really happy to be creating these experiences for people and not, happy to not be pigeonholed into some sort of back pain type clinic. But I also wanted to make sure that the healing and transformational experiences I was creating for people were having an impact. And I started to notice that the more I was able to help entrepreneurs have a powerful experience of themselves, the more successful they were in their business, the more their business grew, and the more they could impact the lives of others. That became super compelling for me. I started to get really interested in how I could create waves of impact. And to this day, I love working with entrepreneurs, and especially spiritual entrepreneurs like you, because I know that if I can be the first domino in your life, if I know I can knock that one thing over, that sets a ripple of awakening and transformation and enlightenment within you, then you can go out and do all kinds of good things in the world. And for me, we'll go into typologies at some point, but for me as a projector, that's really what I'm designed to do. I'm designed to help you wake up, help you realize a more powerful, more authentic version of yourself, help you step into your own mastery and majesty and mystery, and really be the most empowered version of you that you can be. So I did that for a number of years, and people kept wanting more and more. I ended up offering all kinds of retreats, a dozen or more easily retreats I've run, offering high-end coaching, working one-on-one with people. And I ended up working with, since then, a number of different very successful people. And what I found was that entrepreneurs who are really at the top of their game were looking for someone that could help them think better about themselves and think better about their business. And I've cultivated a number of systems that help me get really clear who someone is, what their gift is, where their bottlenecks are, how they need to transform, what needs to open up, what they need to stop doing, what next steps they have to take in their business to step into what can come next. So I've worked with 2 Forbes 30 under 30s. I've worked with someone who has a Billboard top 40 hit, someone who's been on Shark Tank, all number of 6-figure entrepreneurs, people who are running 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses. And all of these people have sought me out because they realized that I could help them see clearly what their next step was. And that's what I want to do for you. So throughout all of this, I have been in my own spiritual awakening process, meditating for 22 years at this point, and really devoted to the awakening of others and using my business. And I don't have my healing office anymore, but when I had it, using that as a laboratory for deeply understanding how transformation occurs and deeply understanding how to have care and open-heartedness and compassion for the rough and ugly moments that are inevitably going to come when you say, I want more in my life. And recently, about 1.5 years ago, I started yet another degree. This is going to be my 5th. I'm doing a PhD in integral noetic sciences, which is essentially a doctorate at the crossroads of science and spirituality. And I'm looking specifically at the spiritual awakening process and how we navigate through spiritual realms and how we use the process of awakening as a force for good in the world. So I paint all this as a picture so that you can understand the number of hours that I've really dedicated to understanding you, and the amount of energy I've committed to helping people like you to be in this process of awakening. I believe, I've mentioned in other videos, This is what the world needs most right now. People like you committed to being badasses, to being loving, caring, and capable, and becoming wildly successful. Because the more successful you are, the more good can happen in the world through your business if we design your business the right way. If you have any questions about my journey, about some of the awakenings that I've had, oh yeah, I also wrote a book. It's back there. It's called Awakening the Mystics, a rally cry for the dormant mystic archetype in the time we need it most. And in that, I'm speaking to people like you, people on the spiritual path, with helping them understand part of the processes that need to occur in this spiritual awakening up experience. So if you have questions about my journey, if you have questions about the spiritual awakening process, if you have, reflections, if you are confronted, if it's annoying, if it's whatever, I don't care. I'm interested to hear what your feedback is, and I want you to share that in the forum. What landed for you in hearing my story? My hope is that I'm not sharing my story for me, that when I relate my story, it is a transmission for someone else to find resonance, to find possibility, to find something activating inside of them that takes them to their next awareness or their next breakthrough. So I want to know if that happened for you. Thanks for being with me.